Hi, how are you? I was going to say good morning, but by the time I send this out, it may not be morning where you are, or by the time you watch it, it may not be morning. So I'm just going to say hi. So I thought I'd come out and do a video for today's email because it may wind up being a long written email, and I figured it would just be easier to do the video. So I want to talk a little bit about, I think I'm going to title this email, and it may wind up being something else by the time I'm done, but the illusion that we keep missing. That's what I think I'm going to title it. If it turns out to be something else, oh well, say la vie, right? Anyway, a couple of things happened for me over the last few days that had me kind of scratching my head, kind of thinking, I wonder what that's about. And then last night, I had an insight into what it was about. So I'm going to share first the stories. And the first one was I was at work, and one of the women that I work with, she was talking about her daughter, and had been going to get booster shots. And her daughter was kind of freaked out about getting the shot, and she's like, I'm not ready, and I've got to prepare. And I'm like, prepare for what? And her mother's like, well, yeah, exactly. What do you prepare for? You just go do it. And then my friend said, she said, well, she's a lot like me, and she doesn't do well with adrenaline. And I thought that was curious, and I didn't go any further because it's not a coaching conversation. It was just a conversation. But in my mind, I'm thinking, well, that's really interesting, because adrenaline is something that we create in our bodies through thought. And the more we think about how we feel, the more real the feeling becomes, the more it perpetuates this cycle of adrenaline and stress and anxiety, right? And yet when you let the thought go, the adrenaline lowers, the body returns to baseline, and you're on to another feeling, right? Another thought, another feeling. It's really not that you don't do well with adrenaline. It's that you're creating the adrenaline and you don't realize it. If you've ever had somebody jump out and scare you, right? You're scared, your heart's pounding 1,000 miles an hour, but you realize you're safe and you start laughing, and you may, maybe swear at the person or whatever. I know I've done that. But as soon as you realize you're safe and the thought that you're safe goes through your head, your heart stops beating so fast, your body returns to baseline. You're on to another thought, you're on to another feeling. It's just kind of how the system works, right? And then the next thing was, yesterday I was talking to someone that was regular customers, and I was working at the bar, and they were there for a couple of hours, and we were all just chatting and having a good time. They were having a great time. They were celebrating a sibling's birthday and all that. And toward the end, I made a comment about my coaching, and she wanted to know what I did for coaching. And I said, well, I started out specifically working in grief, and I do facilitate a grief support group and all that. Well, then she got very teary, and she told me that, over the last couple of years, they've lost a lot of family members, and she just lost a friend of hers a couple of months ago, and how, she's having a hard time with the grief. And I said, well, tell me more about that. And she said, well, I don't think I'm where I should be. And I said, well, that could be something that holds you back a little bit, just the idea, the thought that I'm not where I should be. Because really, with grief, you're not supposed to be anywhere. You are where you are, right? But then I said to her, I said, well, have you ever noticed that when you're not thinking about it, you're not feeling it? And she said, oh, no, I think about it all the time. I'm thinking all the time. And she said, I'm thinking all the time. I said, well, we're all thinking all the time. It's kind of how humans work. And she said, no, I think about it all the time. I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm thinking, we're just sitting here for the last couple hours laughing and having a good time, and you were fine. So how can you be thinking about it all the time? And I was reflecting on this on my way home last night, and I realized a couple of things. Thinking back to Aaron, when Aaron died, and very shortly thereafter, he was on my mind all the time. It felt like constantly. But looking back, I know that's not true, because I was doing other things. I was working, I was living, as best I could, he wasn't truly on my mind 24/7. He just, things about Aaron would pop into my head probably every few seconds. I'd have a thought about Aaron. So it felt like I was thinking about him all the time. And as time goes on, the time between thoughts popping into my head is longer. So it doesn't feel like I think about him as much or as often. And, you know, I recognize that may be kind of where she's at the moment. Is it's not that she's actually thinking about her friend all the time. It's that her friend is popping into her mind frequently. And when she thinks about that, it feels like it's all the time. And then I had another thought. When I said to her, do you notice that when you're not having the thought, you're not having the feeling? And, you know, she said what she said. I'm thinking all the time. I think about her all the time. It hit me that, oh, it's a bit of a paradox. It's a bit of an illusion, because as soon as you think about what you're not thinking about, you're thinking about it, and it's brought to life in your consciousness, because that's how we work, right? We have a thought, our consciousness brings it to life, we feel it in the moment, making it feel real. So it's really tough to say, hey, do you recognize when you're not thinking about it, you don't feel it? Because as soon as you mention it, they think about it and they feel it. It's only when you get to a certain point, like I can think about things that really bothered me years ago. And now when I think, oh, I haven't thought about that in a long time, most times I just let it go. Every once in a while, there's something that I start to ruminate on again because I feel like I should be able to fix it. Well, you can't fix the past. You can't fix what's already done. It's done. It's in form. It's over. So it was just kind of a little bit of an insight, a lightning moment for me that, yeah, okay. When you're not thinking about it, you're not feeling it. But as soon as you think about not thinking about it, you're thinking about it and you're feeling it. Twisty. I know. And then the last thing I'm going to leave you with is I was watching, they did a live version of recreation of Different Strokes and Facts of Life. And I was watching it on Netflix last night. And Norman Lear, he's 99 years old. He created those shows. He created All in the Family and The Jeffersons and so many shows back in the 70s and 80s, and probably still doing it. But Jimmy Kimmel asked him, he said, if you had 2 words of advice or words to live by, words to live by at your age in 99 years, what would those words be? And Norman Lear said 2 words, done and next. And then he said, I'm going to warn you beforehand, there's an F-bomb coming. When it's fucking done, it's done. You go on to the next thing. And I just thought that's kind of apropos of what I was considering this whole topic. Because when things are past and we are not thinking about them and we're done thinking about them, they're done and we're on to the next thing. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful. I hope you picked up on something and maybe even have an insight for yourself. Talk to you soon.